Okay fam, so for today's episode of Destination Fitness with Carlos, episode number 10 of Discover Sydney, and really this is how you get around Sydney. So if you're coming for a holiday, you're coming to visit, this guys is the number of ways that you can get around Sydney. Now the thing is, it's a bit of a gloomy day today. You can see my jacket. The thing is, it's not actually cold. However, I've been traveling for 2 years, and basically I've got my clothes are all in storage, so I've only found what I can to throw on. But anyway guys, this is the city of Sydney, and I'll show you a few ways that you can get around and show you how you can get around as well, with some Opal cards and different methods of getting around the city itself. So let's have a little journey getting around Sydney. Okay fam, so Discovering Sydney in episode 10, I'm going to show you how you can get around the city. Short and sweet episode, not very long, but different ways that you can get around the city itself if you don't have a car, but also if you do have a car. But anyway guys, this is the episode today, episode 10, Discover Sydney. Let's see how you get around the city itself. Alright fam, so something that you really want to get hold of when you are visiting or traveling here is the Opal card. Now that Opal card basically gives you access to all these options that I'm going to show you today, aside from driving and walking obviously. Your ferries, your trains, your buses, your trams, that Opal card works on all of them. And the thing is with Sydney, what you want to do is travel outside of off-peak. So if you travel from like 9 a.m. to I think it's 9 a.m. to about 4 p.m, you'll pay less, because one thing with Sydney, it is expensive to get around, expensive to live. It's actually one of the most expensive cities in the world actually. But if you want to cut down on your costs, if you are traveling and visiting, try traveling off-peak, what they call off-peak here. But then again guys, that card again, the Opal card, you want to get a hold of that, and that will get you around the city on all the transport options. Okay fam, so my first option of traveling around Sydney is the ferries. Now if you've been watching my videos, which I hope you have been, you would have seen that I've done quite a few ferry trips. And the beauty of the ferries is one way to actually see the city and the harbourside suburbs, which you won't normally see when you're driving around. But again guys, the ferries and Circular Quay here is the main area where you're going to get them. Is a very, very busy area. And the ferries are basically like, how can I call it? Almost like, in Circular Quay itself, almost like a main terminal, if you're going for buses and trains and stuff like that. But as you can see, there's quite a few wharfs. I think we've got about 7 wharfs, and then there's a timetable which will tell you exactly where and when the ferries are coming. And your Opal card works on these as well. They're not overly expensive. And you can see behind me there. And I'll just show you how far they go. You can go all the way to Parramatta, which is one of my recent videos, which you'll see goes all the way to Parramatta, which is 30 kilometres inland to the west of the city. So, you know, it is a pretty extensive system on the ferries itself when you want to get around Sydney. Remember that Opal card works. So I don't know if you can see the stops there. They're in alphabetical order, but as you can see, you've got Abbotsford, you've got places like Cabarita, Parramatta, Mossman, Sydney Olympic Park, the Zoo, Watson's Bay, Manly. So it is pretty extensive. I'll try and see if you can see it more on this side. And it gives you all the times and how, what wharf, which would be like a train platform if you want to call it that. And like I said, it's not a beautiful day today. It's actually quite rainy, but there's still quite a few people down here in the city ready to catch their ferries to go to wherever they want to go. And there's the famous Harbour Bridge. And like I said, this is really the main ferry wharf. There's another one in Darling Harbour, but these ferries aren't tourist ferries. These are basically to take people home. But if you do get them, you will see many suburbs that you won't normally see aside from taking the ferry itself. So again, that's another option of getting around Sydney. Now, the other option is obviously the tram. And as you can see, this is the tram stop. They're pretty obvious, easy to find. This is basically one of the main tram stops here at Town Hall. And I'll film as well when the tram comes, and I'll tap on. So basically the Opal card works here. You tap on this machine here, and then you tap off when you get off. Now this is the main route which goes to Circular Quay, which is where the harbour bridge is. But this is basically the tram stops. Like I said, very easy to identify, and they're on the main road. So anyway, once it comes, we'll film that part as well. Okay, so as you can see, there's the Opal card, and you just basically tap on here, which I just did a second ago, so I won't do it again. But basically I'll tell you how much you've got left on the card on the machine there, and then when we get off, we'll tap off on the other side, and there's basically the trams there. And beautiful sunny period now, the rain stopped, which is great. The other tram's on its way, and we are in the city centre, obviously, right here in Town Hall. And I'll show you when we tap off, and we are off peak, so it should be a relatively inexpensive trip. And you can see the board up there tells you exactly where the trams are going as well. So from here it's a one main route which goes to Circular Quay, but what you'll find is the trams actually extensively go towards, especially the eastern suburbs, once you get. Oh wow, the sun's come out at just the right time. It's so funny when the sun comes out how much nicer it feels out here. But here comes my tram now, and I'll show you what it looks like inside as well. As you can see, it's going to Randwick. They're quite long trams. I'll probably go off towards the end here, and then we'll see what it's like inside. A little bit busy. Okay, and then we just tap on here.
For your safety, please hold on at all times.
And that's what the inside looks like. Okay, so we just got off the train. We've got to tap off again. Let's see how much that cost me. So that was $2.24. So as you can see, guys, that trip was only $2.24 from Town Hall. Stopped at Chinatown, Haymarket, and then Central. And that Central station behind me over there, there's the platforms that go towards the airport. So it's only $2.24. So it's relatively inexpensive off-peak. Remember that, off-peak, very important. But again, that's a good way to get around the city if it's a day like today when it's raining. However, my preferred option is still walking. And there you go, you see the trains coming on the other side. So they come pretty often down here. So there you go, guys, that's your tram ride into the city. Now, if I'm at Central Station, what you see behind me there is a light rail. So it looks like a tram. I think it is a tram really, but they just call it the light rail. This takes you to some of the inner west suburbs. So that's another way to get to the inner west or to come into Sydney. And the important thing is when you're in Sydney, especially people that are traveling, there's a lot of people that do backpacking and stuff like that. You may be staying in some suburbs that are in the inner west, and even on the beaches, the eastern suburbs beaches, the northern beaches, and down there, I'm at the station, Central Station, but that's where you get most of your buses. Now I'm not going to show you what the bus inside looks like because they're pretty standard to what most buses look like. But what you will find is the buses you get just outside the station here, and you'll find them all over the city. But you just got to look out for where they go because, like I said, if you are going to the northern beaches and eastern suburbs, especially the beachside suburbs, you only have access by bus. There's no trains, there's no trams, or getting a cab or driving, obviously, is the other option. But you don't have any of those other options in terms of trains and things like that. So it's only buses. So that's another option for you guys. The buses is the other way to get around. Now, fam, if you are driving, if you've hired a car, you come to Sydney for a visit, these secure parkings here behind me are probably your best option on the weekends. Now, people that live here like myself, we would normally be driving into the city all the time and use these parking bays. And you can get a weekend rates over here, about $20, $25. However, during the weekday, forget it. They are very, very expensive. Like I said, it's one of the most expensive cities in the world. And you'll find out why if you do try and come to park here if you're driving. And I'll give you an idea what the parking meters are, because there are parking meters as well. As you can see, you can park on the street here. However, you wouldn't want to park on here for too long, and I'll give you an idea. So during the weekdays, where are we? Okay, so you're looking at around $6 per hour. Now, I was in Singapore not long ago, and I did a video for you guys. It was $1.20 an hour, and Singapore dollar is similar to ours. So it's $6 per hour, and there's no discounts or anything, even on the weekends. So it's very expensive. If you do want to park here for a long period, the best option is to use those parking bays itself, the secure parking. They're all over the city. Just look it up and you'll find them, but they're definitely the best option. You don't want to be parking out on the street. Now another option, of course, is the best option, I think, is walking around the city. But as you can see, it is pretty busy in the city. It's a weekday at the moment. If I pan it around, you'll see quite a lot of people out here. So like any big city, it's a normal big city. I'm crossing the tram lines here. You can't cross the tram lines, but it does get very busy. However, walking for me is the best option. It is a really good city to walk around in, Sydney, compared to a lot of places I've been to. But like I said, when you're walking around during the weekday, you are going to come across a lot of people. Whoop, trying to get around here. So it does get very busy, and as you can hear, a lot of cars, a lot of action. But like I said, walking is probably the best option in my opinion. And Sydney is one of those cities where you can walk around. It's not a huge city, but it is quite big. But it's, you see a lot more when you do walk around itself. Okay fam, so the last option is the trains to get around the city. Now one thing that's interesting here is our trains go underground once they get into the city. But unlike cities where I've lived, like Bangkok, London, the same train that goes overground is the one that goes underground. So you have to get off, you don't have to change lines. For example, in Bangkok, I think there's 4 different types of trains, but you've got to change lines for all of them. Whereas here, the train that takes you all the way out into the suburbs is the same one that goes underground into the city as well. So that's something that's interesting. A lot of people find that there's one train, one line, takes you all the way underground, and it's only about 5 or 6 stations underground in the city itself. But they're the same train that takes you overground as well, so you don't have to change. But we'll hop on the train in a sec and show you what the trains look like going out into the city. Okay guys, so once again, you've got your Opal card that you want to tap on. There you go, it tells you your balance, tells you to go through. And this is Central Station itself. And it's actually pretty impressive, the Central Station, to be honest. On this side here, you've got the trains that go into the country. And then over here, you've got your Suburban trains, which take you back home. And that's how you get around the city as well. There's about 5 or 6 stops in the city that you can get around. But obviously, what you see on that board there is all the different places that this takes you. And it takes you, the trains from here, east, north, south, west, and very far as well. It goes all the way into the mountains. As you can see, some of them go to Newcastle, Kiama. Look, you've even got Brisbane and Canberra. But my ones are the ones down there, the ones that take us home. Okay, so the sun's come out again, which is beautiful. And these are the trains, obviously the train station on the platform at Central. Now my line is the airport line, and I'm going to show you how much it costs from Central to my stop. However, I'm going to get off at the airport, and I'm not going to come out, but I'm going to show you why, and explain to you why I've come off at the airport once we get there. Okay fam, so you may be wondering why I got off at the international terminal. And there's a good reason for it. It's a bit of a warning and also a bit of information. So when you get off at the international terminal or the domestic, which is the stop before, it's only 3 stops from the city. However, you'll get hit with a $20 charge on your Opal card because it costs $20 just to get off this station, and it's probably the most expensive airport station in the world. Just to give you an example, I lived in Bangkok for ages, and to get from the airport in Bangkok to Bangkok itself, the centre, a place called Makassar, it used to cost me 35 baht, which is about $1.50 Australian. And to get from the airport here into the city, which is only three stops, it costs you 20 Australian dollars. That's per person, off peak, on peak, it doesn't matter. Children, all the same. So if you've got a family of 4, it's $80 just to get the train. So it's something which I mention simply so that you're aware of it. And as you can see, the station's all right. And it's not because the airport is spectacular. It's far from it. It's just a normal airport. It's actually quite boring, to be honest, our airport in Sydney. We're building a new one in the suburbs, but it's quite close to the city, which is a great thing about the airport here. But it is $20 now. That's for the domestic or the international. So just be wary of that, because I get that train often. Wait for the announcement. I get that train often, and it costs me $20 each time. That's each way, $40 just to get off at the airport. So bear that in mind when you are getting the train. Get around Sydney by train, but when you come to the airport, if you have a large family, maybe look at some different options rather than the train, because it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. All right, family, as the train approaches here at the airport, I'll show you a few cool things about our train, which I found people find cool. Things that are unusual with our train here in Sydney. But here we go. This is the last option of your travel around Sydney, the trains. First thing you'll notice, you've got upstairs and downstairs. 2 levels there. Let's see what it looks like when we get inside.
This station
Okay.
is International Airport.
You can sit up there. Or you can sit down there. So you've got your 2 options. And obviously you've got your suitcases and stuff that stay here. And I'll show you the actual other cool thing about it. Alright, so as well as having the options of upstairs and downstairs, we'll go up. You can also flick your chair in different angles if you want. So if you've got friends or something, you want to sit opposite them, you can. Or if you want to sit on your own, you just flick it back and you're sitting on your own. So that is pretty cool, because a few people have said that to me, that, oh wow, you can actually move the chairs around, which you can. Alright fam, so finally arrived to my destination. 25 kilometres, about 10 stations. Let's see how much it costs for 25 kilometres. Wow, $1.47. So that's off peak. Now, remember, the airport was $20, so that is only literally 20 times the amount, and it's like 10 stations and 25 kilometres, and the airport was only 3 stations. But that's it guys, I said get around Sydney. Some other ways apart from driving around. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode guys. Until the next one.